All right, today we are putting a predictive model, Spectra, through the ringer. We're going to take its pre-match forecast for a couple of Premier League games and see how they actually stacked up against the final whistle. Did the data score a screamer or was it a complete own goal? Let's find out.
You know, the big question is always this. Can a statistical model, no matter how slick it is, really truly account for the beautiful, chaotic, and, let's be honest, often completely unpredictable nature of football? Well, we are about to find out. So here's how we're going to do it. We're looking at two totally different types of matches from the same game week. First up, Everton versus Crystal Palace, a game the model saw as a genuine 50-50 coin flip. And then we've got Wolves versus Brighton, where the data pointed to a clear, confident favorite. It's the perfect setup for an expectation versus reality showdown.
Okay, so let's rewind the clock. Before anyone even kicked a ball, what did the data actually say? This is the expectation part of our story.
Now, the main tool we're looking at is what's called an ensemble model. The easiest way to think about it is like a committee of experts. Instead of just relying on one single prediction, you have a whole bunch of different models. They all get a vote on what's most likely to happen. The thinking is that the wisdom of the crowd is going to be more accurate than any one single voice.
So for our big toss-up match, Everton versus Crystal Palace, the committee's final vote was for a draw, giving it a pretty hefty 41.6% chance. A home win for Everton wasn't that far behind, mind you, but the consensus was that these two teams were probably going to share the points. And if we dig just a little deeper, the single most likely scoreline was a 1-1 draw, with a 10.6% probability. But just look at how close the next two are. A 2-1 Everton win and a 1-0 Everton win were right on its heels. That just shows you how tight the margins really were inside the model's brain.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting. There was some tension in the data. While most of the models in that committee agreed on a draw, there was one lone wolf, the random forest model, that completely broke from the pack. It gave a 40% chance of a home win, making that the most likely outcome for it. A little disagreement in the ranks. Just keep that in the back of your mind.
Now, let's switch gears to our second match, where the story the model told was completely different. For Wolves versus Brighton, the picture was way clearer. The ensemble was pretty confident, giving Brighton a 45% chance of winning, even on the road. A draw was still a possibility, sure, but a Wolves home win, that was seen as a real long shot, at just over 16%.
And you can really see that confidence when you look at the predicted scorelines. The most probable outcome was a 2-1 victory for Brighton. The data was basically painting a picture of a strong away team coming in and getting the job done.
All right, enough with the predictions. It's time to crash back to reality and see what actually happened out on the pitch. How did the beautiful game treat our beautiful data? And there it is. In the toss-up match, Everton beat Crystal Palace 2-1. Not the draw the ensemble predicted. So, what happened?
Well, it was pure, unadulterated drama. Palace actually took the lead. Everton clawed their way back with a penalty late in the second half, and then, in the 93rd minute, a last-gasp winner sends the home crowd absolutely wild. This is exactly the kind of story that data really struggles to write. And now for our clear favorite. The final score, Wolves won, Brighton won. The strong favorite did not win. The model's most confident prediction of the day ended up as a draw.
And the story here is just a series of statistical oddities. Wolves' only goal was an own goal. That's a moment of pure chance. They created zero, that's right, zero, big chances the entire game and had an expected goals, or XG, of just 0.56. And yet, they walked away with a point against the heavy favorites. Football, eh?
So, with the full-time whistles blown, it is time for the postmortem. Where did the model shine, and where did it just completely fall short? Let's break down the hits and the misses.
Okay, for the Everton game, the ensemble called for a draw, but the final was 2-1. But hey, remember that lone wolf? That random forest model that predicted a home win? It was spot on. And that 2-1 scoreline? It was actually the second most likely outcome in all the simulations, with almost a 10% chance of happening. So the model wasn't totally blind to this possibility. So why did the ensemble get it wrong? Well, external factors are a likely culprit. We're talking strong winds, which can wreak havoc on any game. There were key injuries for Palace that maybe weren't fully weighted, and the model's own summary even hints that it might have been underestimating Everton's home advantage. These are the kinds of tricky, real-world variables that models are constantly trying to learn from. Now for the clear favorite that wasn't? The ensemble confidently predicted a Brighton win, but reality served up a 1-1 draw. But here's the fascinating part.
Just like in the first match, this exact 1-1 draw was the model's second most likely outcome. It was a surprise for sure, but one the model saw as a very real possibility.
The reasons for this miss really boil down to things that are just incredibly hard to predict. An own goal is pretty much the definition of randomness. Wolves scoring despite creating almost nothing on offense is a classic low-probability event. And yeah, key injuries for Brighton also played a part. Sometimes you just can't model for sheer dumb luck.
So, after all that, what have we actually learned? What are the big takeaways from putting Spectra to the test against the beautiful chaos of a Premier League weekend?
Look, I think the crucial lesson here is that these models offer a map of possibilities, not a single guaranteed destination. The consensus might point one way, but those outliers and the second-best guesses often hide the real story. And while we can try to account for things like weather and injuries, you have to always leave room for pure, unpredictable randomness, because you just can't write a formula for an own goal.
And of course, a quick reminder, this is all for informational and entertainment purposes. These models don't guarantee anything, so please always bet responsibly and only wager what you can actually afford to lose.
And that leaves us with one last really fascinating question. The data gives us probabilities, not certainties. It tells us what's most likely, but not what will happen. So the real art is knowing when to trust the consensus of the data and when to listen to that one single dissenting voice that just might have seen the future a little more clearly.